Welcome to the CEO Project Podcast, where Jim Schlexer, author of the best-selling book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, and the founder of the CEO Project, provides ideas and tools to help CEOs of mid to large-sized companies grow and optimize their businesses. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everybody, to the CEO Project Podcast. My name is Jim Schlexer. I am your host and the founder of the CEO Project. Well, differentiation is, core to having a successful offer and building a business that actually resonates with clients. And we had a couple of weeks ago, we talked with the author of Blue Dots, and he said, market alignment and claim really are critical to being successful. We're going to go deep on the whole idea of positioning, branding, and differentiation with an expert in the field. So we have with us today, Barry LaBov. He's the founder of CEO LaBov Marketing, Communications, and Training. He's a two-time Ernst and Young Entrepreneur of the Year recipient and an inductee into the Entrepreneur Hall of Fame. Wowzy. He's also a Better Business Bureau Torch Awards for Ethics recipient. Under his leadership, LaBov Marketing, Communications, and Training has received the Indiana Growth 100 Award 6 times and has named Small Business of the Year, recognized as one of the best places to work in Indiana. Additionally, LaBov's client work has been honored with nearly 100, come on, man, get it over 100, national and regional awards. Hey, Barry, welcome. Glad you're here.
Hey, Jim, it's a pleasure. I really enjoy your podcast, and I'm looking forward to today.
Well, thank you. You and my mom and maybe 2 other people. So thank you. I appreciate you listening. Well, tell us a little bit about what your firm does and how you got to this place, because you've been doing this quite a while, actually, right? This is your life's work, effectively.
Yeah, this is my life's work. I am an old person, but I started out in music. So
you're amongst friends. It's okay.
I started out as a rock and roll musician. And so I learned how to really run a small business, because that's what a band is. It's 3 or 4 or 5 people, and you're trying to motivate them to show up on time and to perform and to create. So I started out in that, and I had some success in that, for a number of years. And at one point, had to make a decision. Do I want to keep up with the rock band or get into business? I went into business, and shortly after won my first of 2 Entrepreneur of the Year awards by Ernst and Young. And what happened is I've gone down this road is I learned that music wasn't really what my love was. My love was creating something that had never existed before. I mean, that's what I love. Mm-hmm. So as I went through this journey, I started to see that there were many, many companies that were doing great things, but they did not recognize it. So they would come to me and say, hey, we need a new marketing campaign. We need something new. And I would stop and say, let's look at what you are doing. Let's discover the magic before we go throw it out.
Yep.
And Jim, that set me down this wonderful path of identifying, discovering differentiation, then being able to name it, tell the story behind it, and then celebrate it first to the most important people, employees, the people who design, sell, etc., that product or service, and then launch it to the world. That's been my story.
Nice. So when you're looking at this, like the unique little kernel that's inside or something, I mean, what are you generally looking for? And maybe more importantly, like people, I've talked to CEOs all the time, and they go, well, our people really, really care. And I feel like saying, if I go talk to your competitors, their people really, really care too. So
right.
It's not an important. So you got to find something that's a differentiator, but customers actually care about it. And it's unique. So like that little Venn diagram of customers care about it, it is actually unique, and you actually have it. How do you find that? What discovery process do you go through? And I'm really asking this for people that are listening going, I'm not sure if I'm unique or not. How do I figure it out? So like, how do you do it?
Here's how we do it, and people can take what I say and try it themselves. They can work with me or work with somebody. One of these 5 steps, nobody else does, okay? And then couple, everybody does. So it's unique. The first thing we do is we do a brand assessment, but think of it, Jim, like this. We're talking to human beings. We want to know about what is this company, brand, whatever you want to call it, doing. And one of our questions we ask is, what should they not change? Really important. because we're all entrepreneurs, right? So, I mean, your audience is filled with entrepreneurs and we're ready to change anything, right? Well, sometimes we should not change the very best things we're doing. So, number one, we determine whether it's from the employees, the executives, the customers, former customers, suppliers, we determine from their mouths what is special about this company, in addition to things they want to see change, but what is unique? What should they not change? The second step
And you
is,
find that question of what should not change, does that really get at the soul of the brand? Does that really go, the one thing you cannot change about this company is XYZ?
I think you would be surprised, Jim, at how often that points to something
Hmm.
that is right in front of your eyes. And you're going, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You've got to
Right.
be kidding me. You think that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the second step is the one nobody does. And
Yep.
that is we literally go inside the factory, the plant, the technology center, the service center, whatever the company's doing. And my technical team will conduct a technical
Hmm.
immersion. We get immersed in it. We're saying, okay, does everybody do this? Wait a minute, you're doing this and this. Does everybody do this? Now, Jim, most of the time will say, hey, we noticed you're doing this. Does your competition do this? And most of our clients go, I don't know. I guess I thought they did. And we'll go,
Yeah.
this might be unique. Okay. A lot of times we'll say, hey, how come you're doing this? And they go, I don't know. We just do it. Okay, but what's the end result? And it could be something that saves lives, something that is an incredible benefit. We go, okay, do you call this anything? And they go, no, I don't call it. It's just us being us. So we go in there, and our second step is we're looking at stuff, things, technology, and we're finding possible differentiation. Our third step is we do what we call a jam session. Being an ex rock and
Yeah, you
roller,
had to go for the music term, didn't you?
I had to. So we do this third step with the client and we go, okay, here's what we think, blah, blah, blah. At that point, we have a 150-page document of all this information. And we say, client, if you want to go forward without us, that's great. Here are the things we think you need to focus on for differentiation. If you want to go forward with us, that's great too. We'll go to the fourth stage, which is we start the execution stage, which is those four differentiators, let's say, we name them. We present them in a certain way that will be very, very high impact. We
Hmm.
might create a website. Once in a while, we'll do a new logo or something. But before we go to launch it, which is our fifth step, we celebrate it with the most important people, the people that create it, design it, service it, sell it, sweep the floors of the facility. We celebrate it with our people first, your people, because you want them to be engaged. You want them to be
Hmm.
an army raring to go to get out there and do battle out there. Then we
Hmm.
launch it to the world. And I'll say one thing, because I think it may touch some of the audience. It's very, very important to realize that even if you say, well, our people make the difference, exactly like you, Jim, I go, really? You have a DNA advantage at your
Yeah.
company? And they
Yeah.
go, well, no, but our people are great. And I go, everybody says that. But here's where it gets really important. If your people actually think what they're doing is significant and meaningful, and there's actually some sort of intelligence behind why you're doing what you're doing, wouldn't they be more likely to do a better job so quality goes up? Wouldn't they be
Hmm.
more likely to actually stay there because actually, they're doing something important? Wouldn't they be more likely to require those around them to do a good job? Come on, people, you got to do a little better here because after all, we're out here saving lives or we're out here doing whatever. It's critically important because when our people, our teams, and it could even be if you sell through dealers or distributors, when they start to think, wait a minute, what I'm doing is actually of some value, it's significant,
Hmm.
our customers feel it. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, the customers go, I love that company. So we have those 5 steps. It's not
Got it.
easy to do, it is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. I think what's interesting here is when you're in the soup, it's hard to know what's unique, right? You're a goldfish in the bowl, you don't realize it. And the outside perspective would go, wait, 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 wait. That thing you just talked about, I'm going to tell you, we've talked to hundreds of companies. Nobody does that. And they go, really?
Right?
We've been doing it for 40 years. They're like, no, nobody does what you're doing right here. And they just
Yeah.
can't see it because it's like every day I show up and I make the donuts and that's how we do things.
Jim, you just nailed it. That's exactly it. We're too close. We're
Yeah.
too close to what we're doing. And I walked into a factory. It was probably an $80 million family business, componentry business. And they had just put in, I think, at least $1 million or $2 million of machinery to produce a product that was what I would say a breakthrough product in their industry, because in their industry, I won't go into specifics, but it's a life and death industry.
Mm.
So they created a valve, a latch, let's say, that would activate in case pressurization went up, which meant if somebody tried to open up this, let's say, cover of a product, just the cover of it, sometimes it would explode and
Oh
people
boy.
could get injured. Well, they created this latch that would activate in that situation so that the cover couldn't activate, couldn't open up. Nothing, nobody could get hurt. And I talked to the leader of the company who is an engineer, and he's now the president. He was the VP of engineering, family member. And I said, this is a brilliant concept. He said, yeah. He said, well, we're engineers and it should be, and that's our job. I said, great. I said, do you charge a lot more for this product? He goes,
Mm.
no, we don't charge more. I said, okay, does your competition have it? He said, no, 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 not at all. I said, do you at least promote it so that people know about it? He goes, look, Barry, people ought to know about it. My opinion is if you really care, you'd know. I said, okay, one final question. What did you call this genius latch? What's the name? He said, we just call it latch.
Bob. It's Bob.
Yeah. And I said, have you at least celebrated the fact you spent $2 million to create a life-saving device
Mm.
with your employees? He goes, no. I said, okay, you've got a lot of positives here. And the point I'm making is this is a genius I'm talking to. This guy's
Yeah.
brilliant. But
Yeah.
like you said, he's in the soup. He's too close.
Yeah.
And too often, I work with great engineers, and too often they just go, well, isn't that what we're supposed to do? I mean, come on. And I'm
Yeah.
going, yes, but you've got to tell people they need to know, including employees as well as customers.
Yeah, I mean, as an engineer, we're just not flashy like that. We just do our thing, and that's what makes sense. So we did it, right?
It's us being us. That's
Yeah,
us.
right. That's it.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked about your process was the celebration because I actually think you're doing something more than just celebrating, which is it's your first test market for what you did.
Mm,
And if you
yeah.
go to your employees and they go, I don't know about that. Like, doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
I would be really concerned, right? They go, I'm not, maybe. But if they go, oh my God, you nailed it. That's our soul. That's what we are. Then rock and roll. Let's go to town on this thing because we got it. So I love that as a sort of a
Mm.
check before you go big and go public.
That's a brilliant idea. We did something similar many times, but that's a great point. Many times when there will be a launch, we
Yep.
invite the employees to be the first people to do the launch experience, meaning instead of going around the country and letting strangers try out the product, we have our employees at the client's locations do that first. So that's related, but I like how you looked at this because that celebration really is a test.
Right. And yeah. So anyway, feel free to steal it. It's all yours, right?
Okay, thanks.
So once we got sort of our differentiation and our, positioning, I'll start with communication. How do you bring that to market in a way that you go, because you always were this, right? You're not going to say, oh my God, the caterpillar turned into a butterfly. It's completely different. No,
Mhm.
how do you bring it to market in a way that actually gets the attention of potential clients or current clients and they go, oh, what? How do you do that, right? What's the model?
Each client's going to be different
Yeah.
and unique based on their market. Some clients are in a highly technical social media world, others are almost still paper based. But the most important thing when we're looking at this is to be consistent,
Hmm.
is to realize how do people, strangers, start to learn about your product? Do they go to your website? Do they look at social media? Are they going to certain conferences? And what we really work with clients on is to create a language because words create worlds. So we work with clients to make sure the language they're using, the words, are words they can own for their product. Because too often, Jim, you hear the same 6, 7, 8 words: service, value, selection, quality. And it's like nobody even hears those words. So we look for unique words, and we look at also what words not to use. If your competitor uses the word innovation in their tagline, let's not use innovation. Let's use a different word so we don't keep, helping the bad guys out, so to speak. So we
Yeah.
look at the language, we create that very focused, regimented messaging system, which can include any of the things we talked about.
And you get people to say it the same way all the time. Like, so when we present, we go, we da 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 da, right?
Yeah,
I heard we had somebody on a few weeks ago, and he talked about an exercise where they took the marketing statements from a variety, had an audience, I think it was bankers or something like that. And they
yeah,
put the marketing statements up and they go, can you identify whose marketing, positioning this is?
yeah.
They couldn't, including two CEOs. It was their marketing statement, their branding up on the wall. They couldn't even pick it out of a lineup. I mean, so
Oh,
this
yeah.
idea of reinforcing and training people so they get it and they embed it, I think is super important. And I
Well,
think most people don't do that.
I did it was kind of, I played a trick, good
No.
natured, but a trick on a client once. I brought the top people in and I said, okay, here is your advertising. And it was their ads and their headlines, let's say. And here's your competition. And they looked at it and they go, yeah, the competition stinks and all this. I said, okay, here's what we did. We flipped the verbiage around. So when I said, here's your advertising, it's actually what your competition is saying.
Yeah.
Only it's with your colors
Yeah,
and
yeah,
your
yeah.
logo and vice versa. And they went, oh. And I said, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm trying to say, you're not saying anything unique.
Right.
And, people are smart and they also have short attention spans. So that's why I think you look for 2 or 3 unique things and you just hammer them home. Because otherwise, look, value, price, selection. Okay, everybody says it. I'd
Yeah.
rather hear somebody say, look, our service is kind of mediocre, but our product is so advanced because it does this and that. And I go, okay, I'll put up with bad
You'll
service
you'll
to get
you'll
that great
suffer through
product.
our horrible service to get our amazing product, right? That
Right.
would be, Seth Godin talks about purple cow and notability, right? They go worthy
Yes.
of note. And when you go, we strive to be a global provider of blah, 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 right?
Oh,
You're like, yeah, put me to sleep. But if you said that, our service is horrible, but our product is so good that you're going to be willing to suffer through it, he'd go, what? Wait a minute. That's different and
right.
notable. It's worthy of note, right?
Yes.
How do you then ensure, because I think branding and positioning is about the customer experience. So how
Yes.
do you then engineer the customer experience so that we deliver what you pulled out, what you sussed out every time, all the time with high quality? What's the next step to get to that place? Because I got it. The marketing dudes did their thing. We got a brand.
Yeah.
Now we got to deliver it every day of the week. How do you get to that part? Because I think that's where the rubber hits the road.
It's so important. I just talked to Joe Pine, who is an amazing author, and he wrote The Experience Economy.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I've read it. Yep.
and Seth Godin is somebody I've worked with and done podcasts with. Same situation. Here's what's so interesting. Number one, we have to realize that our brand experience, Jim, is our brand
Yeah.
to our customers. And some people will go, yeah, come on, Barry. So who cares? No, no, here's what I mean. Let's say you're an automotive manufacturer and you have this great car and a great ad campaign, and somebody runs into that dealership and they're so excited to buy that car. They want to buy that car, but they are treated terribly. And the car's in lousy shape. It's dirty and grimy. And they walk out of there. And what do they say? They say, I'll never buy that brand ever in my life. And I'm going to tell my friends. Think about the auto manufacturer. This is all of us in your audience. The person or team that created that car, they didn't do anything about that experience at that
Yeah.
moment. Okay, but we as consumers completely go, okay, that car stinks. I'll never buy. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's get back to this. Your experience should be a representation of your brand. Okay, what's that mean? Here's what it means. If you're a high tech brand, nobody has technology like us. you better not have a paper-based approach to dealing with
Yeah. If
customers.
you could just fax your order in, that would be great, right?
I'm telling you, I work with a high-tech company, and it's funny you said that. They're very high-tech, they're engineering geniuses, and they had a fax system.
Oh,
And we said, okay, that's not going to work. And I said, I'm not opposed to faxes, but here's the reality. You say you're technological and you're using something from the 1950s. It's like, ain't going to happen. Now, all of their machinery in their factory was all top notch and recent, but their sales system was back in the 50s and 60s. So one thing we really focus on, as an example with technology, think about this. I have a high technology product. Great. Do you demonstrate it using technology? Well, you better.
hmm.
You better. So your brand experience should be a representation of your brand. If we're the friendly brand that really understands you, we have to train our people to be that way. If we are the very, very advanced engineering geniuses, we better have some pretty smart people, or at least people very, very educated in the specific technology, because we're attracting customers that love that.
Yeah.
It's got to make sense from an experience standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's so great. The idea that you're going to line up the experience with the brand and be careful about that. I think that's
Yeah.
super important. And I think a lot of people miss it. Like you said, they create a great product and they don't think about how does a customer buy it and what's their experience when they buy it. I mean, I think Apple, for example, has really kind of figured this out. Actually, I was
Mhm.
going to go back. I'm going to date myself. Remember
Sure.
when Lexus came into the market?
Brilliant. Yes.
Right? They had a very high-end product, Japanese. I think it's a Toyota or something. But
Yes.
anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But it's really high-end variant. And they built specialized centers. You'd go in, they'd treat you nice. It smelled nice. They'd clean your car after they did service. Everything was right at the level of the vehicle, or at least the perception of the vehicle.
Yeah.
It all lined up. Somebody was really thinking when they did that particular brand. I think Apple does too. Go buy an Apple phone in their Apple store, the
Yeah.
register comes to you. It's all very high tech. They're all geeky, nerdy techno people, right? I mean,
Right.
it's perfect.
Well, here's what Lexus did. This is great for the audience too. Why do you differentiate? Well, all the reasons we said, but also because you can charge a premium.
Well, yeah.
When Lexus came in, few people know this, so this might be of
Yeah. Nope.
particular interest. When Lex,
We love stories, Barry. This is
okay,
great.
this is well, I learned this as I was sitting in the office of an Acura executive.
Oh,
So
wow.
Acura was in the market as the Japanese luxury car, and I'm going to come up with numbers, but I think they were selling their Legend for $28,000. Okay, so that at the time was a very expensive Japanese car. The Mercedes might be at 40.
Yep.
But 28,000 for a Lexus, great. I'm sorry, for an Acura. They heard that Lexus was coming in. Acura thought, uh-oh, we better lower our price, or at least hold our price.
Ooh, yeah.
Lexus comes in and they differentiate. They say, hey, here's going to be our experience. Here's what we're going to do with this. Here's what this car is. They came in at 35,000. They came in
Yep.
higher. And you know what they did is they grabbed the market away from Acura. They took Acura's identity away because Lexus owned luxury for that Japanese product.
Yep. Yep.
And that's what they did. And their experience, see, the Acura experience was still the Honda
Yep.
experience. It was the same
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Lexus said, no, no, no. We will have our own Lexus experience. And that's how they own the market.
Yep. To this day, Lexus luxury. I mean, it was also well named on top of that, but it could kind of assonance exists there. But so
Well, I'll tell you though, I will tell you this. You can talk to people from Acura and Lexus, and there is not a significant difference in how much money either of those cars cost to make.
oh, I
But the
believe.
the perception is very different.
Yep. Yep, 100%. And honestly, a Honda versus a Toyota, which one's more the underlying infrastructure of it's probably about the same. Maybe Honda's got a little edge, but it doesn't show up in the market that way.
It doesn't.
No, and I think it's the experience, to your point, that really made that differentiation. Give me another example, Barry, in your work of a B2B. I mean, B2C is a little easier because we all kind of
Yeah.
give me a B2B company that really, man, they nailed it. They got this and they really do it well. Whether we would know them or not, it doesn't matter. Just
There's a copper processing company, so there's
ooh,
B2B, okay?
sexy
It is.
business.
And we tackled the fact that their nickname was the cheap copper
Oh
guys, and
gosh.
they were viewed as a commodity. They would take
Sure.
recycled copper, off of wires and cell phones, and they melt it, and then they'd create copper wire. Okay. And so they came to us. They had no identity. And we found that their president was pretty passionate about this. So, long story short, we said, how come your product is so cheap when it is actually the most sustainable copper in the industry? And they said,
Sustainable in terms of how they produced it.
yes, it was the sustainable copper. So, as so many companies worldwide are going, we've got to be more sustainable. This company had a differentiator: sustainable copper, not copper you're pulling out of the ground and raping the
Oh,
earth
because they were
from.
using reclaimed copper to create their product. It was okay.
Absolutely.
Reduce,
Well,
reuse, recycle. Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome.
so we named the company Copper Works. Their slogan is where copper works, because this copper can work just like the copper you pull out of the ground that the
Sure.
mining companies will mine. What happened over the next 2, 3 years is we identified what their experience was, because they actually had a very unique experience. Their engineers would go to the clients' factories and tune the machinery for the clients to get better quality copper wire, which is
Wow.
crazy. Okay.
Yeah,
When we started with them, they were not charging to do it. Now they do.
sure.
When we started with them there, and the CEO shared this with me, so I can share it, but they were, not very profitable. Today, they are the highest priced copper in the industry. They're the premium, and they are the most profitable. So that's an example. We differentiated their product. We identified this unique recyclable product. We named it, and that's how they're promoted.
You know, this is why engineers don't get this because I'm going, well, if I did an atomic analysis of the copper, it would be exactly the same as everybody else's and blah, blah, blah. I
Right.
mean, it's the same stuff.
Right. Right.
Crazy. I should have paid attention to my business classes. No, I'm kidding. I did pay attention. That's fabulous. So when people are trying to do this, where do they go wrong? Like, it gets, okay, I'm going to brand, I'm going to differentiate, I'm going to figure out what
Okay.
matters, I'm going to promote it, where do they screw it up?
They screw it up when they outthink themselves and become more like a commodity. And they start going, we'd make a few percent more if we got rid of this. And if we got rid of that, we didn't worry about doing these extra 2 steps. And gosh, we could sell it cheaper and we could sell more of it. And what happens is when you commoditize, you go downhill, and downhill doing it, you're not going to make more money. But we also know, and we've talked about this, what happens is your employees go, we used to be great. Now we're just not the same anymore. I used to be proud. You don't want to be a used to be company. So what we have to watch is, hey, let's come up with a cheaper version of our product. It's
Yeah.
like, are we promoting the value of the product we have now? And the answer is most often, not really.
Right. Wow. So you can't let the cost cutters and penny pinchers crush your brand, basically, is the story I'm hearing.
Right. If any of you have dealt with procurement professionals, I've
Yeah.
talked with a number of them, and it's literally heartbreaking because you're going, you've got to be kidding me. That's your focus. And their whole focus is, how do we reduce cost so that candidly, they might share in that or at least get their bonus,
Yep.
even if it's at the risk of the quality of the product and the outcome. And so we got to fight every day to stay out of those battles because you don't win them.
Yeah.
So just stay out and
Well, let's
stand
challenge
up.
that for a second because I was literally
Yeah.
at a board meeting yesterday, and a lot of the conversation was about the customer power and how they had
Mhm.
these really aggressive procurement people that beat the bejesus out of you.
Yep.
Like, how do we position against this? How do we win against this onslaught of a limited customer set that are highly skilled at trying to commoditize you on the purchasing side? And
Well, you only have a chance if you have differentiated and you're able to crystallize that, communicate it, and that procurement person has to go back to the other folks there and say, okay, Jim's company has blank, blank, and blank, and the others candidly don't. Now, Jim's charging a premium for that.
right.
Now, Jim does the other stuff the other people do, but these 3 things, it depends if you really think they're valuable. And if they really do, they may say, okay,
Then
all
you
right,
win.
yeah.
It's funny, we actually had that conversation because they're getting beat up on the low end of the market, but it turns out they
Yes.
have very, very sophisticated technology, actually better than everybody else's. And one of my answers was, let's go up market. And then, well, that's a smaller market. I'm like, I know, but we could own that smaller premium market and let everybody else duke it out at the bottom in the
Right.
bloodbath that it is already, you know?
Right. Remember, procurement professionals do that every single day of the week. Most of the time, we as CEOs and entrepreneurs, we don't. So it's
Yeah.
once every few months we're brought in to that rodeo and we're supposed to ride that thing and do well. And it's like, I'm not going to compete with them. They are elite
Yeah.
in doing that. So what I can compete in is, okay, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Nobody else does it like that. But in all honesty, client, if that's not important to you, probably the cheap guys are just as good.
Yeah. Well, and that's always hard, I think, particularly when you have a sales leader, because they
Yes.
go, I want to throw the big net and bring as many fish in as I humanly can. And I'm not going to say no to anybody because that is saying no to people and say, look, I'm right for this group of people that
Right.
value what I do. And if you don't value it, I'm the wrong person for you. That's hard to say. That's really hard to say.
Yeah, it is. That's why if you're differentiated, you have a little more confidence because you go, I know we're not the cheapest in every category. I know that, but I do know we do this and nobody else does. And I do that with my company. I mean, I don't win every bid. There are bids where I go, hey, we do this and that. And if they say, oh, we already know what we're great at, we already know our differentiation, I go, we're probably not right. We're just
Yeah.
not the right fit.
There you go. Awesome. Barry, what should I have asked that I didn't ask?
I think you did great.
Oh,
I think
I got a gold star. Awesome.
I think you did fantastic. You had I seldom get procurement questions, so I give you 3 gold stars on that. But no, in all seriousness, the procurement question was great because it really circles back to, okay, if you're like everybody else, you're in big trouble,
Yeah.
and you got to do something.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great. The only other thing I would say is what you brought about, which is looking upscale. Very often you will have a product, and I worked with a chassis company. They had owned the low end of the market. So this relates to what you talked about going upscale. They were upset. They came to us and said, hey, we don't know why we're not in the upscale part of the market. So we looked into it. We did a technical immersion. Their product was actually more advanced than the luxury product. But kudos to the company that was beating them up at the time. That company positioned themselves as the elite brand with the great experience, with the great personality, all of that. And they grabbed that high-end, high-profit market away.
Yeah.
Now, we were able to wrestle that back
Wow.
and all, but the thing I say is that when you decide, like you said there, let's go upscale, that's great. Then you got to live that upscale with that experience. And it was hard to wrestle it back, even though their product was not superior. So I think sometimes we got to look at that and go, if there's a part of the market we're not in and we can't figure out why, sometimes it's us. It's our experience. And sometimes it's not lower the price because that's not the big issue.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I don't think anybody else owns it, so they have an opportunity here, possibly. So anyway,
That'd be great.
hey, Barry, this was spectacular. If somebody wanted more Barry in their life, how would they get a hold of you?
A number of ways. Go to LinkedIn, Barry LaBov. I will respond. Even if it's conversations, I'm happy to help people. Company website is LaBov.com. Personal website, BarryLaBov.com. And everything we talked about today is from my book, The Power of Differentiation. You can find that at Amazon or through Simon & Schuster or anywhere in the world. Cool. If anybody buys it, please leave an honest review about it, which is great.
Yeah, it is important, actually. I hear you. Well, this was great. Thank you, Barry, for taking your time and investing it with us and sharing some of your ideas. I really appreciate it.
Jim, it's been great, fantastic, and keep up the great success with the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on the CEO Project Podcast. Thanks for listening to the CEO Project Podcast. We'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe to get all the future episodes and check out our website, www.theceoproject.com.